Good evening and happy Valentine's Day. I would like to call to order the February 14th, 2024 regular school committee meeting at 5:01 PM. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to convene in executive session, which is a non-public session to discuss the approval of the January 10th, 2024 executive session minutes and collective bargaining pertaining to the TTA teachers and ESP aides bargaining units. The school committee will reconvene in open session, which is a public session hearing on the FY25 budget meeting after executive session. That hearing will be followed by the regular session meeting at 6:30 PM.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Biagioni Smith, a second by Mr. Russo. How do you vote, Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
And Mr. Russo?
Aye.
And Ms. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well, so that is a unanimous vote of 4. Perhaps we'll see Mr. Parsons in executive session. Okay, and good evening, and again, happy Valentine's Day. We now reconvene our February 14, 2024 public session hearing on the FY25 budget with Mr. Dave Libby. It is now 6 PM. And without further ado, Mr. Libby.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to our second public display of our budget for FY25. We tend to try to make all of our budget decisions based on our district strategy, which is the first slide in our presentation. I'm not going to read it. I read it last time, but it's here if folks want to peruse it and our theory of action. But we try to keep these in mind as we go through and make our budgetary decisions for the upcoming year. The school department budget consists of 4 major categories, 3 of which are managed by the schools: salary, operating, capital outlay. Salary, of course, wages and salaries paid to personnel. And all of our most of our budget is in salary. We're in the people business, so that makes sense. About 30% of our budget is in the operating area. That's other areas that we need to make the place run. Utilities, transportation, special education services, tuitions, things like that go into that category. Capital outlays, very small portion of our budget, about 2%, that we try to set aside for major costs and improvements on our building or technology year to year. And then the fourth portion of our budget is managed and shared with the town. Those are our fixed costs, things like health insurance, building insurance, things that are a little less under our control, unemployment costs and things like that are in that fixed cost category. When we talk about the school budget, we generally are talking about salary, operating, and capital outlay, and the other costs are in our budget, but a little bit less under our control. So the school budget process is very fluid. Changes occur constantly, and resources are constantly changing as well. So our budget reflects the district's plan to best use those resources at any given moment in time. The budget process happens all year long. We're always thinking about how different things that happen during the school year affect our budget, and our budget changes constantly, and will reflect these changes between now and final budget approval. So the school budget is part of the overall town budget for the town of Tewksbury. So what we do here is we review, recommend, and recommend for approval to the town manager and the finance committee. That's what the school committee does usually in April. The finance committee then recommends approval of the town budget to the town meeting in May each year. And then the town meeting approves the budget, and that actually is the vehicle that appropriates funds for each town department, including the schools. So final actual approval of funds for school and all departments rests with the residents who attend town meeting. Where does school funding come from? So we take our base budget from the prior year, and then we add 60% of projected new revenues that are coming into the town. We get new revenues from increased state aid, increases in property taxes make up a bulk of that, increases in other taxes and other levies that the town projects for the upcoming year. So why do we use a 60-40 split? If you look at the overall expenses between the town and the schools, it generally hovers around the 60% mark. For FY24, the percentage is 59.92. 25, it's 60.73. So it's generally right around that number, and that's how the town manager and the finance committee has arrived at that 60-40 split of new revenues. So I said it's a fluid one. We had a change in 2 weeks that's happened since our last budget presentation. We had projected a 6% growth for Shawshene Tech in their budget. The actual budget figures we got last week, came in about 86,000 higher. So we're splitting the actual added cost with the town at that 60-40 ratio. So we had to come up with a reduction to our budget of a little over $51,000 over the past 2 weeks. So just an example of things that can happen, and very real, very current, and happened over since we last met 2 weeks ago. So some challenges faced in formulating this particular budget for FY25. Collective bargaining unit agreements are not in place. So typically we know what the percentage increases are going to be in salary. So it's just performing some math and projections to move people ahead on their salary scales with no collective bargaining agreements in place beyond FY24 for any of our bargaining groups. It's very difficult to project a budget, but we have to make some assumptions and projections to do so. Normally, we use prior year's actuals to determine the needs and/or budget opportunities. So we only had 6 months of FY23 data with the new center school building structure in place. So that was, we have kind of limited data to work with there, but we are extrapolating and figuring out how that new building structure is impacting our operating side of expenses, as far as utilities and transportation and things like that go. And schools are still feeling the effects of COVID-19 and students recovering from learning loss. We want to make sure we have adequate resources in place for schools to be able to address those needs. The use of ESSER funds, ESSER grants ends September of '24. So we need to balance the use of those funds by the deadline with the ability to support the needs if they're recurring within the budget in the future. So anything that we found from our building level folks that they want to keep within our budget as a recurring expense, we want to try a way to fund that moving forward. We also are dealing with the preschool restructure with the additional space at our PK1 schools. We're trying to better balance the preschool offerings between the Dewing and Heathbrook schools so that students are able to attend their home-based school for all 3 years if they're able to do so. We could really stop the challenges conversation right here with the collective bargaining agreements, but we're going to move on and talk about all the other areas we need to focus on. We're developing multiple contingencies depending on all the contract settlements, assessing personnel opportunities based on currently declining enrollment across the district and looking for opportunities at different buildings. We're also assessing our grant-funded personnel, begin to fund via the LEA budget if appropriate. And as I mentioned, increasing the balancing of special ed programming between our PK1 schools. Operationally, searching for opportunities in transportation, utilities, technology, supplies, and maintenance, trying to keep ahead of rising trends in those areas. Areas in technology we're focusing on is communications, looking ways we can improve and consolidate systems of communications with our families and the school community. We're continuing our smart board to clear touch conversion district-wide and making use of a E-rate discount program that we're involved in through the state. Looking at our printing options, our copier contract is expiring this year, so we're exploring our options there, including potentially going to a 5-year contract on our copiers. Building improvements, we're always looking at the needs of the Heathbrook and the Dewing to get through potentially 6 to 10 years if the town is interested in pursuing another building project to replace those schools. Building and ground systems, overall needs of HVAC, electric, plumbing, security, intercom, and PA systems are a problem at a few of our schools, and voice over IP phone systems. Even in a school that's as new as this, some of those systems are becoming outdated. The lighting system here, we're being told, is obsolete, and we're finding replacement parts can't be had for it. And if things we keep having problems, we may need to replace it. So the good and bad news of the technology-rich buildings, when things go south, they go south fast. Overall, a 2.54 increase is being requested for the town. That was 2.63 when we last met. The minor adjustment with the Shot Tech increase brought us down a little bit. The dollar change, that $1.345 million, that's represents the 60% new revenue share that the town will see as an increase over our FY24 budget. When you factor in our fixed costs, so for our health insurance, debt service, retirement costs, and those sorts of things, a 3.09 increase is what the district is requesting. So some key assumptions and changes that are reflected in this current version of the FY25 budget. Same workforce as FY24 with the following exceptions. The 6 principal support positions that were grant funded through the ESSER grants will be eliminated. Shifted salaries of 3 adjustment counselors, nurse, and ESL teacher, which were grant funded through those ESSER grants, are being shifted into the LEA budget. A straight 3% COLA for all bargaining units, except for 3.5% for TTA steps 1 through 4, consistent with the school department's latest negotiation. Any known retiree positions will be absorbed, reorganized, or filled by current staff in this budget plan. On the operating side, we've level funded operating with the following exceptions. Some increased transportation costs for known contractual increases. We have a 3-year contract with most of our transportation vendors. So we know some of those rates are increasing by contract next year. We've reviewed our special ed out-of-district student list with our special ed staff and adjusted tuition by 4.69%, which was recommended by the OSD from the state. So the Occupational Services Division, they set the rates for out-of-district tuition placements, and they're recommending that we plan for a 4.69 increase in out-of-district tuitions for next year. On the capital outlay side, I'm reserving all the FY25 capital outlay money at this time for the Heathbrook renovation project. It's currently still in the design phase. Costs are unknown. We'll be going out to bid the end of February on that project. So salary, as I said, represents most of our budget. To be exact, 70.6% of the school budget. And most of that, 70.6%, is in the teachers area, kind of as it should be. They are the folks who deliver the product that the school department produces. Some of the non-union folks represent the next group. That would be principals, administration, some of our non-union service providers as well are in that group. On the operating side, it represents 28% of the school budget. It's a little more evenly distributed, but tuition and transportation are the biggest areas of cost for the district. Special education services is the next highest. This is where we took that hit based on the Shawshene Tech budget change. Capital outlay, and the priority would be the Heathbrook renovation project. We're also looking at an overall electrical assessment for the Heathbrook School. Plan for a playground update similar to the one we did at the Dewing School to get some age-appropriate playground equipment there for preschoolers in the Heathbrook that are now attending that school. And our Dewing intercom PA system is on its last legs and outlived its life, so needs to be replaced. This is just an overall list of some projects that we are considering for the next 3 years. And I seem to be stuck. Okay, and some capital projects completed over the last 3 years. Much shorter list last year, 23, 24, with the center school opening. A lot of the focus of our resources and maintenance folks was working on punch list items for the center school. It was a very big undertaking and took up a lot of the maintenance resources we had available in 23, 24. So on to grants and revolving accounts. We have 51 separate funds that are currently active in the district. They all have a specific purpose and must be used appropriately for the purpose that the funds are raised. We can't take parking fees and buy textbooks for a school. We have to spend any fees raised for instance, parking. We have to spend them on parking-related expenses, so maintaining the parking lot, things like that. And we have approximately 32 positions that are funded either partially or fully with grant and revolving accounts. This is a list of all those funds and sort of our summary of our cash balance on hand for the past 3 years, and kind of a brief where the money comes from, and then what we typically spend the money on. There's a couple of areas that I will expand on: school lunch and the circuit breaker account. Those are our largest revolving accounts, and I'll explain a little bit more about how those funds work. Something's going wrong. Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
Not moving?
There we go.
Hey.
Okay. So circuit breaker is a special education reimbursement program that provides financial assistance to public school districts to offset the cost of delivering high-cost special education services to students. So this is an example of how it works. If we had a tuition and then services for tuition of $125,000 for a student, $30,000 for some services, $15,000 for transportation, for a total reimbursable costs of $170,000. Circuit breaker, the threshold is set by the state each year. It's the average cost to educate special ed students across the state. Our gross claim for this student would be $120,000, and the circuit breaker pays the town a reimbursement on 75% of that gross claim. So we would get back 90%, $90,000 back on this student in year 2. So you spend the money in year 1, you get some of it back in year 2. This is a 5-year history of, again, our balance and then our net claim for what we've been reimbursed in circuit breaker. You can see it's been increasing. There are a couple of reasons for that. The rules have changed a bit. They're allowing about 4 or 5 years ago, they included behavioral services to be claimed. So that resulted in an increase in our net claim once we were able to include those services. And then most recently, they phased in inclusion of transportation services. So that, as well as an increase in our student population in out-of-district placements, sort of the allowable expenses have increased. So we're able to get more back in our circuit breaker reimbursement. In food services, this is a 5-year history of our cash balance again, with the revenues and expenses shown. We, again, see an increase here in our balance in food services. The latest move to universal free breakfast and lunch has really increased participation over the past 2 years and led to an increase in participation and an increase in revenues for that department. So we still get the same amount of money for every meal we serve. It doesn't matter if parents are paying or not, we just get the money from a different source. The Food and Nutrition Department is completely self-sustaining as well. All of their food service workers and managers are paid out of the revenues generated by the fund. So this is a summary of the other grant funding available for FY24. We don't know what will be available yet for FY25. We made some assumptions that most of these entitlement grants, which are shown in blue, will be approximately the same as they are in FY24, with the exception of the Title I grant, which we've already received warning that will be reduced by approximately $183,000 for FY25. This is based on I think it's a 3-year-old measure of students in or living in or under the poverty level in town, and our number has risen above the mark that gets us this extra portion of Title I funds well, 2 years ago, it had risen above that mark. So it impacts our Title I funding this year, this upcoming year. So we have already made some plans and adjustments to the budget to address how we'll handle those Title I programs next year in light of that. So overall, this is what our expanded budget will look like at town meeting, if town meeting were to happen today, with our health insurance, retirement accounts, Medicare accounts all fully expanded. Again, a 3.09 increase is what we're looking at. So next steps, we'll continue discussions with our community leaders, department heads, everyone involved and stakeholders in the schools, and make adjustments to this plan as we move forward, which will likely result in some movement between these accounts. We may have some movements from between salary accounts and operating accounts, or vice versa. But the general final number of $75,203,061 will be our final budget. We seem to be stuck again. Okay. I have some more detailed account level views of our budget available on our website at this page here, on the business office page, summary by cost center, which cost centers are our schools or major departments, and then details of each account within those cost centers. This is about a 13-page document. This is a one-pager if you're interested in looking at those, as well as one more summary page. A summary by DESI function code, which kind of splits out, all the costs grouped together by, all the costs for teachers, all the costs for different categories of spending, and broken out by regular education and special education as well. And then what those codes mean. We use a universal code that is used by every district across the state to account for all of our expenses within the district. And yes, we made it. That's the end of the presentation, and happy to answer any questions you have, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Louie. Any questions, comments from the committee?
I have none.
Russo?
Yeah, I have a few. Shocker, right? So you mentioned, and it's small potatoes, this one, but there were some shifts from a couple weeks ago, specifically some things that were taken out of the operating budget. I'm just curious, what led to those assumptions so that you could figure out sort of where to take money away from? You know what I'm saying? That makes sense?
Yeah. I looked at some trends from this year and some past years, areas where we might be able to either reduce spending or possibly use a different funding source to kind of backfill. Like maybe in athletics, there might be some funding available in our athletic revolving account where we put the ticket money.
Yeah. And I'm assuming there'll be more changes between now and next month, and obviously as we get to May, as you clearly have articulated. Is there anything else in the budget, from an operating standpoint, that you think or feel that there may be any padding towards it, for lack of a better term?
There may be, excuse
Any padding?
I am looking at the possibility of funding health insurance through a few other sources. Some of our health insurance, the food service folks,
Yeah.
we're looking at that option. But if we do that for food service, we have to do it for all of our federally funded programs. They all have to be treated the same. So it would impact some of our special education grants and sort of reduce by virtue of having to fund their own health insurance, it would reduce the amount of resources they would have to use towards the purpose of the grant. So it's kind of a double-edged sword on that front, but looking at that, I'm looking at, I'm nervous about, actually nervous that we don't have enough money in transportation. We know what our increases will be with our big yellow buses.
Yep.
We took a bus out of the fleet sort of
Yep.
by, kind of because we had to, but we're going to leave it that way. So the increase that we saw in the rate is offset by the one fewer bus for next year. But the out-of-district transportation rate is set to have a substantial increase next year. And that's always a tricky one because we share that contract with Billerica and Chelmsford. And if we're able to combine students, we split the van cost in half or thirds or fourths, depending on how many students are on the van. So it's really difficult to predict.
Okay.
Until it's out there and actually running. It's very difficult to try to be ahead of that one. But I am a little leery of where we are or where we'll be next year. We do have some other companies that we're trying out, but we're not finding them that much any cheaper, in fact, and they have a different pricing philosophy. They don't, if we add students, they just add the cost of, if it's $250 for one student, it's $500 for two students.
Got it.
So it's not, we're not finding they operate the same as our contracted vendor.
Okay. Well, I want to actually thank Mr. Montour and the Finance Committee, specifically in regards to the 60% allocated to the schools. When we've talked about it here a number of times about decreasing enrollment over the last decade or so, and the fact that we're still allocated 60% speaks volumes to the commitment that they have towards the education of Tewksbury kids. You brought up, and I know I threw this out there 2 weeks ago, building improvements in terms of why do the Heathbrook and Dewing School over the next 6 to 10 years. Again, I'm just going to throw this out there again, and something that I think we need to consider is, why do we need to keep these two buildings for the next 6 to 10 years? We have spaces in our current schools. So something that we need to maybe think about, not for next year, obviously, but as we move forward. And then the last question I have is just on key assumptions. You mentioned a 3% raise. We know, and we've talked about it here, we're in the middle of collective bargaining with the various units. We know that proposals that are out there with the TTA. They've sought an 8% raise in the first year. If that was to happen and we were not to touch any other bargaining units, what would we have to cut in that particular unit?
At an 8%,
Yep,
and
just in the TTA.
with the proposal, with the salary table,
Correct.
it's upwards of 30 positions.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Is that all, Mr. Russo?
It is, thank you.
Mrs. Anderson, anything for you?
Just a couple of questions. So I know in your capital outlay, you were saying that you're reserving all of your fiscal year 25 capital outlay to Heathbrook. But
Yeah.
I know that there's other things at other schools, and I think it goes to the 6 to 10 years, how much money are we going to keep putting into these schools? But one of your priorities was the doing intercom. So I'm assuming you're going to make sure that, although most of the money's going to Heathbrook, that you are going to set aside some reserve for the other schools and the things that they need.
Yeah, well, that's where the intercom has a definite safety aspect to it.
Right.
And we need to make sure we're getting a hold of everybody when we need to. That's going to be a priority to make sure that gets done. We're getting pricing on it now. We do have some other, avenues we could pursue to fund projects like that. And we could look at some of our revolving accounts maybe.
Okay.
To touch.
Yeah, I just think it's really key that anything revolving safety or security
Yeah.
with the kids is addressed, making sure that we have the budget for it. And then I think this is just more of a rhetorical question, but I think we got to continue to look at ways to bring, I think you touched upon it a little bit last time, Mrs. Garabine, about what are the ways we can bring more funds to the district, but what are the ways we can bring kids back to the district? The kids that are outplaced for special needs, the kids that are going to schools like Shawshene, et cetera. How can we continue to look at how do we bring those kids back and get more of our students back into the district? That was rhetorical, but yes.
Thank you.
That's it, thank you.
BJ Smith.
I have two, actually. So the first one is maybe something you know, maybe you don't, but keeping an eye on the Shawshene Tech and the increase there and the ask for them, and how that might change our budget or what it will look like for us, depending on how that plays out at town meeting, because that does have to go to town meeting first, right?
It's part of the overall,
Yeah,
overall budget at town meeting.
okay. So there's nothing there, and this is just me not understanding it, I guess, is that there's nothing there specifically with Shawshene Tech that would, I guess, get turned down or voted down at town meeting that would impact our budget? Or is that
No, it just gets,
all
it's a line
encompassing?
item in the overall, budget for the town. Just similar to ours.
Is that same?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more just, me understanding that. And then the other thing is, do we ever look into grant funding for any of the play structures? Is that something, I know you mentioned a plan for the Heathbrook update, and maybe this is a moot point if we're not looking to keep these for 6 or 10 years, or if we are, possible grants for that type of a rebuild or a remediation of that.
I think if,
I haven't seen one in a long time. I can tell you that our parent advisory committees, our PACs, have been amazing at maintaining playgrounds as essential. But we haven't seen anything in grants. However, we're always looking at ways, and you're going to hear about many ways in which Dr. Bastieri continues to seek out funds for us. We often don't qualify for many of the grants because we're not a district as in need. So when we do see things that we're very excited about, we look right there to see, is that something we can, or even matching grants. Is it
Yeah.
something we can put the money up for and get a matching grant.
And I've seen a few that are slightly different than your typical, just a play structure, more of a cultural shift in the outdoor space. So whether it's gardening or you know, whatever it might be, that kind of shifts the outdoor space from just a playground to something a little bit more culturally.
Like the communication boards and things. we're
Communication
putting out, yeah.
boards, yeah, gardening, or anything like that. That just makes it a little bit different than a straight play structure. It would kind of help our town diversify our space a bit more there.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I just, a couple of questions. How long are we in our transportation contract for?
2 more years.
2 more years?
Yeah, this year was the first year, 3-year deal.
Okay, and then we had talked about the high school roof at one time. I feel like we haven't heard a lot about that. Is that still on the radar? Is that, where are we at with
Oh,
that?
yeah, and I know they made some repairs to, what was John saying? The grate areas where the membrane meets the, some of the drainage areas on the roof. He was telling me they made some repairs to those recently, and I think that's been helpful in stopping some of the leaks they've been experiencing here. I'll check in, though, with him and see where we're at.
I was just curious where we're at. And then just passing along, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but I've had residents asking about solar energy and why, you know, that it's not something that was, you know, considered as a bigger option for the flat-roofed buildings we have.
Yeah, we've looked into it. We've been kind of dipped our toe in it a little bit at the Ryan School, particularly when, after we did the roof coating project there. Thought it'd be a good time to, when you know the roof's in good shape, it's a good time to try to do one of those projects. But the pricing that we were receiving was not as good as the pricing that we have through the town with our, with the municipal discounts we were getting through the deals that the town manager had in place.
Okay,
So, and there was an upfront cost as well, so it didn't seem to make sense the last time we investigated it.
okay, that's good feedback.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just if I may, it may be time to resurrect a long-range space planning committee, and we should collaborate with the town to see, because we are going to be in a, and we know how old these schools are. They will, and we're just so proud of the support we've had to continuously maintain them, right?
Right.
But they are expensive, old buildings to maintain. We've looked into greener energy resources as well, but like Mr. Libby said, it comes with a very large expense to not really save money to be a better energy efficient, or I should say greener energy efficient district. So I think we should look at all of those things from the past 2 studies we've had done, the prior long-range space planning committee, presentations, but then also looking forward, while enrollment is down, we know it's about 8 years and it's coming back up to some degree. With that in mind, what is our 5-year plan? 10-year plan. I think that would be wise for us to be working towards that.
Yeah.
And it won't stop us from needing to make these repairs.
Yep.
But at least, we can look at the longer range.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like an excellent idea, and I think incorporating some people, at the town level, so that there's some other voices.
The last time we did this, we had a local contractor as well as town, selectmen school, there was a wide variety of community members that were part of that plan.
Okay, so
I
great.
should mention, too, we do receive solar credits from our, I believe it's the solar field in Billerica. Somehow, I'm not sure how it works, the town manager does all the utility deals in town for all the municipal buildings.
Okay.
But we do receive solar credits for, we use towards the energy bills in this building. And, yeah,
Yep, okay, thank you so much.
But we are in the
Yeah.
solar game.
Yeah, no, I appreciate all the work, and, you know, as, you know, so the public knows, we'll have one more budget hearing at our March meeting as well, so, and that'll be before this will go to town meeting in May, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that concludes the portion of our budget hearing. What time is it here? 6:45. And we now will reconvene our regular school committee meeting for 6:45. And if we could, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. It feels a little out of.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, the announcement for every meeting. This is our February 14th regular school committee meeting. It'll be televised and recorded, may be viewed live on Comcast Channel 22 and Verizon Channel 34, or on youtube.com/Tewksbury TV. Under the open meeting law, the public is permitted to make an audio or video recording of an open session at a public meeting. At this time, I would ask if anybody's recording tonight's meeting. And seeing nobody, I will move on. We don't have any recognitions tonight, and unfortunately, Rania could not join us, so we'll be rejoining with her again in March. And that brings us, our first presentation is with Mr. Pelletier, who is our Director of Student Services, for a presentation on the new IEP training update. Would you like to say any words, Mrs.
Yes, thank you,
Pelletier?
Madam Chair. I do want to recognize Director of Student Services and Special Ed Director, Mr. Pelletier, is here, but his Assistant Director, Candace Starrett, cannot be here, sends her apologies. I want to recognize the real proactive approach both Mr. Pelletier and Ms. Starrett have had in updating and training up our staff on the new IEP, which will be implemented next school year. So tonight, we have an opportunity that he can give you an update on that training and next steps. Oh, and it looks like he is preparing his computer for presentation.
If it pleases the committee, I think while we give Mr. Pelletier a few moments, we could move on to one of our agenda items to kind of take care of some business.
Make a motion to move to the approval of minutes.
Perfect.
I'll
Is there a
second that.
second? Okay, motion by Mrs. BJ Smith, second by Mr. Russo to move on to number 12, the approval of minutes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Mrs. Anderson.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the January 3rd, 2024 special meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Anderson, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. All in favor for the January 3rd, 2024 special meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
I make a motion to approve the January 10th, 2024 regular meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Anderson, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith, and all in favor, please say aye.
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 I make a motion to approve the January 31st, 2024 regular meeting budget minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Anderson, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith for the January 31st, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Please say aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move to item 13, the submission and payment of bills.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Biagioni Smith, second by Mrs. Anderson to take number 13, submission payment of bills out of order. Mrs. Anderson?
Okay,
Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Anderson?
I make a motion to approve the payroll period ending January 18th, 2024 in the amount of $1,574,217.40.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Anderson, a second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith to approve and certify the payroll period ending January 18th, 2024, in the total amount of $1,574,217.40. Mr. Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well for unanimous vote.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the payroll period ending February 1st, 2024 in the amount of $1,605,972.69.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Mrs. Anderson, a second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith to approve and certify the payroll period ending February 1st, 2024, in the total amount of $1,605,972.69. Mr. Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well for unanimous vote. Okay. That was nice, get that out of the way. All right, Mr. Pelletier?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson and Superintendent Terry O'Regan. I'm going to give a very brief update on the new IEP and the training that has occurred throughout the district. The new IEP process goal is to better address unique student needs through greater understanding and underlying concepts and mechanics of successful team meetings and IEP development. The document itself has gone from 8 pages roughly to 16 pages. So it is a lengthier document. And once those pages get filled with information, they will be very large, up to 30 plus pages. So the areas of focus for the improved IEP was for family and student voice, form documents process, least restrictive environment, integrated transition planning, and accessibility of language. And this is just a new IEP process. It is not a new, it's not a new process, it's new forms. And I think that's really important to wrap our heads around. I do believe that the new IEP is much more informative for our families and for our district overall. So these are some of the comparisons of the basic IEP differences. In the 2001 form compared to the new form that will come live in the fall are roughly, the pages are different, more student voice and parent voice as well. The evaluative results will be shared throughout the document instead of one key summary area. The disability checklist, I will go over one form on this particular because it is a new flow chart. And I won't go through each of these old and new versions of the new IEP, but the landscape of it overall is quite different. So in special ed, we have trained all of our special ed faculty across the district. And after April vacation, we are looking to provide training to our general ed faculty as well as our families. And for the families, we're aiming for the week of April 22nd through the end of the month, the 30th. And that will be for our families. And also, the Federation of Children with Special Needs is offering training sessions in March. And we notified families today of that. And we do anticipate providing some services in June as well, some training. So this, families were provided this notification, and they had the registration form attached to that. And I suspect that it will be a very good presentation, as it is through the Department of Elementary and Special Ed, but it's also provided by the Federation. So I just want to go over this new flow chart. This flow chart, pretty much standard. What's different are the arrows where we are seeing no and yes. That's very different. Right now, it's just a simple black line, but I think it provides better direction for families to understand the categories. So this first box, box A, is where the team determines whether the student is found eligible with a disability. And it can be multiple disabilities. So in this category, let's say the student is identified as autistic, but there's also an emotional component and a communication component. Those 3 boxes would be checked off in this area. And because that child does have a disability, very specifically, the team is going to identify a primary disability category. So that would most likely be autism. It's not going. The primary disability is important for reporting for federal data. And that is the primary driver of this change, is to really focus on the primary disability, not the secondary types. Not that the secondary types will not be, those will be addressed in the IEP, but for reporting purposes to the federal government, it will be one disability. And then the rest of the document is pretty much the same. The layout is slightly different, and this is a revised version from the department and not from the federal government. This is a federal form, and as we see up here, they don't identify the federal standard at all. I believe that DESE, the Department of Special Ed, feels that this is a better flow chart, and I think I agree with that because it's a little bit more instructive. And it's the same information, just a little bit more precise. So these are some of the forms that we will be sharing out, and the department will be continuing to share out. This is not an IEP, this is a form. There are multiple forms that go with an IEP, and this is one of just many. So I'd be glad to take any questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being here with us tonight. Any questions or comments from the committee?
I'm good.
Just maybe one, maybe might be more for you, Superintendent Regan. As you think about the new IEP form, and you kind of did a quick comparison slide up there, Mr. Pelletier, it's almost double the length, and so it's a little bit more in-depth, a little bit more detailed, maybe involved. Have we given sort of any sort of thought process as to the amount of time that that's going to now require our staff? Forget the learning curve piece of it, right? That's sort of separate, but just how much extra time that we'll need our special education educators, DLC, case managers, et cetera, to be spending with our families, our students, et cetera, just completing paperwork.
I'm going to allow Mr. Pelletier to answer that. The answer is yes, but he can give you a little
Yeah.
bit more feedback on that. And keeping in mind, the entire team contributes
Yeah.
to the document, and it's not all on one, but
Right, and an IEP team, the requirement for an IEP team consists of at least one special ed teacher that is familiar with the child, and at least one general ed teacher, and then all of the related service providers. And it can include both families and multiple families in some cases, and then advocates. So the team configuration is relatively going to stay the same, roughly anywhere from 5 to 12 individuals on a team meeting. But the duration will probably be double time because the form is longer and it's much more detailed. I think initially it will be longer. Over the longer term, hopefully that will be narrowed, the time frame will be narrowed, but it's a wait and see how long that will be. I think for the upper grade levels, when a student turns 14, transition plans become a very important part of that, and that will increase the time definitely because the transition plan was embedded in the IEP, the new IEP. It was a separate document previous, but they've merged that.
I also want to add that this is why Mr. Pelletier's proactive approach in training and having our staff, and I say staff, all have access to this new IEP often, and because it's going to take practice. Mrs. McDermott also has some planned training for the general ed staff. So it's been a rollout approach from everyone who needs to be train the trainer model to then the users to now gen ed. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Well, Mr. Pelletier's team has been instrumental in they've been getting trained and then getting ready to train all of our teachers. And that's actually, after February vacation, it will be in the March PD coming up. Will be dedicated to the new IEP, so.
For gen ed now, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, great. Thank you very much, Bo.
Okay, anybody, Mrs. Anderson?
Just to go off on that, is this something new for students that they'll have to be trained on as well? Because their input's requested. So is that something that you'll obviously work with them to get them ready to support?
Through the team process and
there'll
through the
be-
parent, we're going to have to. I mean, students are going to, students have always been involved in the IEP team process.
Yeah.
Not necessarily writing the
Right.
IEP, but maybe writing, vision statements. I think that's the key in this, some changes is a student visioning,
Good.
their
Yeah.
success.
Yeah, great, okay.
Yeah, the vision statement, is very specific to the child and asks specific questions for the child to participate.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Mrs. Bjorn-Smith?
I have no questions at this time.
My only question is, are you anticipating longer IEP meetings?
Yes.
So just, I would
Yes.
imagine
Current-
more information.
Currently, annual reviews run at approximately 45 minutes. That should be probably another 15 minutes tacked on to that, given the new IEP length. For initial evals, it will probably be still about an hour and a half to maybe possibly 2 hours, and a 3-year re-evals as well, up to 2 hours. In some rare occasions, they go longer than that.
Okay. And when do you anticipate these being rolled out?
This will be rolled out in the fall, absolutely, yes.
Okay.
At the
And then it
start
will
of the
just
school
be
year.
As IEPs are due?
Yeah, so as the IEPs become due, that's when the new IEP will be presented to the families and to the team. So we're not going to, they won't be all converted to the new IEP format until the annual review is conducted.
Okay.
And so that could be in December, it could be in February of 2025.
Okay.
Any initial evaluation will start right off with the new IEP. And that is true with the 3-year re-evals. It will be dependent on the date, the end date of the IEP currently, which could be 2024 or early part of 2025.
Thank you so much. And I know this is not the first time we've been hearing about the new IEP, so I appreciate kind of the trickle of information, because it's a lot.
You're welcome.
So thank you again for joining us tonight.
I think you can leave that on. Will you be accessing that, Mrs. Baker O'Brien?
Okay, and then Mrs. Terry Regan, if you'd like to introduce our,
I would. You know, it's wonderful that you asked about how we're making improvements to entice our students to want to have their high school experience here at Tewksbury Memorial High School. Mrs. Baker O'Brien, as well as Principal Andrew Long, or I should say Karen Baker O'Brien, and Andrew Long, going to share with you some of the many updates and new offerings that are hitting our 24-25 high school program of studies. And if I might ask, Madam Chair, where they're here, and they're going to share with you the memo of changes, maybe the new business item of accepting the program of studies can be moved up?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, we discussed it, yeah.
wonderful, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for having us. I'd like to start with Ms. Anderson's question to Mr. Libby about getting kids back into the district. One of the ways we can do that is by promoting our program of studies and letting students know of the many opportunities they have in front of them if they choose to come to Tewksbury Memorial High School. You know, Superintendent Regan and I have worked together for many years. Her longstanding dedication and commitment to developing these opportunities, STEM opportunities, pathways, dual enrollment, is really becoming evident with all the courses that are happening. Although tonight we're going to highlight the courses that we're going to have for next academic year, I'm kind of excited to kind of share, and because Superintendent doesn't know I'm kind of leaking this out, her vision to expand these opportunities moving in the years forward, such as offering biotechnology and computer science through Project Lead the Way, which is going to lay the foundation for us to apply for additional pathways through the Department of Ed and provide additional opportunities for students to gain knowledge and insight and practical skills in those two pathways. So we're really excited as we're envisioning our future. And I would be remiss if I also didn't say how much we appreciate Assistant Superintendent's support since she has been appointed. You know, Mrs. McDermott has been nothing but supportive of these opportunities also within our students across the district. So I'd like to start with the early college umbrella. We kind of changed the wording this year, and we kind of try to make it a little bit more simplistic, but we're also adding under the umbrella of early college, Project Lead the Way. Let me highlight some things that we had. So this year, we piloted the AP exam to be optional for students. There was some concern. 95% of our students are participating this year. So we know that this is still very important for our students to potentially get credit, What we saw is though some students, it's a total of 19, that didn't opt to participate, it may not be that that student may not be opting out of all exams. Many of our students take multiple APs, so they are choosing the ones that may be more specific to their college that will be accepted and/or their potential degree pathway. So we are going to keep that language in, but we are adding the language around registration. And that is because College Board changed the registration process a few years ago, and there still seems to be some confusion around that. So students, when they're registering for the exam, have to do so in the fall. And that's a two-step process. They need to register on the College Board account, which they go into their College Board account, select the AP classes they're in, and they have to put a code in. That puts them into the classroom. The second piece, which is also equally important for the district, is they have to go on to Community Pass, they have to register, and they have to pay. Once those two things are done, then I can go in and order the AP exams in the fall for the spring. So we want to make sure that language is in there and it's very clear and evident to students what is the obligation. We are really excited to expand our opportunities with Southern New Hampshire Opportunity. We are petitioning for approval the following courses for this coming year: Applied Marketing Strategies, Introduction to Computer Programming, French Language and Culture, and Spanish 4. So should those be added, again, we are hoping to expand our opportunities one more with UMass Boston, which is a new partnership for us, and this would be for Latin 4. Latin 4 is not offered at SANU, so we cannot partner with them, and it is also not offered at Middlesex Community College, which is also our current partner. So we are looking to see if we can expand that with UMass Boston. So if we look over the last few years, we had 4 dual enrollment courses in the 2022-2023 school year. No, I'm sorry, back up, 21-22. This school year, we have 8 courses that we offered, 7 that are running. 1 is not running because we did not have student enrollment. This year, with the courses that we are trying to run and get approved, it'll be a total of 13 dual enrollment courses, 2 through Middlesex, 10 through Southern New Hampshire, 1 through UMass Boston, if all are approved. Now I'd like to speak a little bit about Project Lead the Way, which is our newest addition to the early college umbrella. Project Lead the Way is equally as rigorous as your AP and your dual enrollment courses. It is project-based. It provides students with hands-on, interdisciplinary opportunities to learn. Students are connected with industry professionals and partners. There is an end-of-the-year assessment that is required. There is no cost for students to take that, but it is a requirement. So participation in Project Lead the Way, what are the benefits for students? There are many. It can lead to scholarships, preferential admission, apprenticeships, internships, potential college credit, waived tuition. For students, they can go to the Project Lead the Way website. They can see the participating colleges across the United States, and they can see what the requirements are. Some might require 3 classes, some may require more, some may require less. So for this coming school year, we're proposing to implement engineering and design through Project Lead the Way, and the capstone class, which will be offered to students in the innovation pathways, which then brings me to the portion of our program of studies on innovation pathways, which a few months ago, Superintendent Regan appointed Mary Jo Kelleher as our STEM coordinator, who's charged with revising the innovation pathways. In 2 short months, it is absolutely astounding how much she has done and how much outreach she has to students within the high school, and it's going to filter down to our middle school. So right now, she has about 17 students who are juniors who are interested in being in this pathway, and she's going down to meet with sophomores shortly. And so when we met with our science teachers, Patrick Cassidy and Michael Hancock, they really expressed their desire for Project Lead the Way, and that's what brought us to this, and what it would do for the Innovation Pathways program. So back in 2018, at the time, Assistant Superintendent Regan really wanted us to pursue the Innovation Pathways, one, for the potential opportunity provided our students. So we did, and we were awarded that grant in August of 2019. And how we envisioned it initially was to give kids the opportunity to do a internship during their summer between their junior and senior year. Many advantages to that. Students could write on that on their college applications. They could get experience in the industry that we could not provide in a classroom at this time. COVID hits. Delays any of the opportunities students had. Although our industry partner at the time did provide virtual opportunities, it was not the same as being on site. I'm going to be quite honest. Provided it one additional year in 2021 and then pulled away. And we're seeing this from employers. When I talked to the Department of Ed, this is across the state, that a lot of employers have pulled away from those student opportunities. So it got us thinking, what else can we do? So the capstone is what we can do. And in the capstone, in the Project Lead the Way, the capstone set up that the students will actually be given an industry problem. Here's a concern. What would you do? How would you solve this? And they will go forward from that conception to actually creating a project. And we are now, we have a grant opportunity that we're hoping for approval. Should we get that approval, we will be able to fund 3 classes. In addition, it's over 3 years, by the way. And that capstone, if we get this grant, would allow our students to be participants in a larger venue down at the Reggie Lewis Center with many other schools that are in Project Lead the Way, and the industry partners are there. So this would be an incredible showcase for our students, and it is why we're really hoping to expand the Project Lead the Way opportunities for students moving forward. So a couple other things I would like to highlight. So students that are in the early college opportunities, whether it's AP, dual enrollment, Project Lead the Way, we are requiring them to stay to the last day of AP testing. This year, that would be May 17th for our current seniors. And that is so that it's equitable for all students and so that they can all be here. Even if they're in the senior project, the commitment would be that they commit to the class till that date. We're also requiring our certified nursing, and I'd like to highlight that a little bit. We had a certified nursing course here for several years. Back when I worked at the high school as a guidance counselor and the department chair, this was probably one of the most remarkable classes for me, because I had students that did not meet the published criteria to get into a nursing program, which is highly competitive. One of the most competitive programs for a child coming out of high school to get into. But because of the practical hand-on experience, similar to Project Lead the Way, those children were getting into programs. And it was amazing for us. COVID hit, we lost some of our equipment, we had to take a step back. We're back this year, and we are going to continue that program moving into next year. Similar to the early college opportunities, because this is a licensing class where children can get certified as a certified nursing assistant, they need to stay for the full term. And that is because they have to get the content and the actual experience before we can hand them off and say they meet all the eligibility. So that's my portion of the program of studies. I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Long.
Thank you.
So, again, just to highlight some of the changes in the program of studies, first of all, the updated artwork, I want to give a shout out to Connor Wallazak. One of our teachers provided his portfolio, and it was amazing, so we had a hard time just choosing within his own stuff. So shout out to him. And then, again, just there's a lot of things in the change memo, just sort of organizational things. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. We just put some of the intervention classes and things like that in the departments in which they belong, you know, that kind of thing. But like I said, if you have any other questions, We are excited that the project Lead the Way really boosts up the Innovation Pathways program, especially since the loss of the internship program. And the other dual enrollment courses, the language courses, same thing there, that it's a great opportunity for families to earn college credit at a, extremely discounted rate before they graduate from high school. So we're super excited about that. And then we also have some wellness classes, Intro to Sports Medicine, Personal Fitness and Nutrition, that we're also excited to offer. So if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, can I just do a little pitch for this team? Because I think you're hearing, and I'm glad you asked the question, what do we do to improve things? We know that real experiential career training and career opportunities are what drive kids, to know what they want to be. But by delivering early college credit, the innovations pathways, highlighting high-level career opportunities in STEM and medical fields is the way to improve the offerings here at this high school. And you're hearing a small smidgen of the work and the opportunities. But when you go from a handful of dual enrollment to now we're looking at over 10, to our innovative pathways, and Mrs. Baker O'Brien's not giving herself enough credit. She was one of the first in this area and has helped other districts bring on more pathways. So what's very unique and wonderful tonight, though, is we have Andy and Karen and now Mary Jo Kelleher, really the wind beneath this vision it's been 6 years in the making, and we see it coming to fruition and on paper again for our kids. We can only grow from here, but it's so exciting to see the growth that we're making under the leadership now.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. So it's great that the kids that are already at the high school are hearing about it and they get to choose their classes. What are we doing for the WIN kids
So-
to bring?
Yeah.
I know
In
that
the
they had
fall-
some language students come down and talk to them, and I think
Yep.
that got them revved up a little bit. But yeah, this I think is even more important.
So in the fall, we created posters, and then we revised them and created even more. And they should be hanging in every classroom at the WIN right now. Andy went down to open house and was available. We have a team, Andy and myself, the administration at the WIN, at guidance counselors at the WIN, because they're on the ground. They're the ones hearing from the students and the families. So we really value their input. And we have been meeting and strategically planning activities, and that will continue as we look to next year and what we can do better and what more can we offer to get families to understand. Because I think they don't know everything that's happening up here, the wonderful things, the wonderful courses that we have, and the wonderful teachers.
Yeah, I think you had a lot of families that are really excited about the tech does like a week or the exploration week or whatever it is. Even if there's something like that, it doesn't have to be a week, a day or anything to get them in.
We're also looking to get the 7th graders in here for senior project week when they display their senior projects. We think that's a great way to get them in the building, number one, but number two, see what kinds of things that our students produce, even in a short amount of time, just for senior project.
Yeah, I love that.
And what we're hearing from our 8th grade counselor and 7th grade counselors really highlight the academics. Really highlight it. They need to hear everything that's going on. So that initiative of bringing them up younger was a recommendation from the counselors to get them in here as 7th graders.
Yeah.
And get a connection. Our counselors at the high school will be going down after vacation to help with course selections and answer any questions students may have. So that's new. That has not happened before. So we're really hopeful that's helpful for the students.
Thank you.
Mr. Parsons, anything from you?
Just thank you for all the great work. That nursing licensure program was something I lost track of and didn't realize it went away, but I'm really glad to hear it's back. No, that's great. Just two things that kind of come to mind a little bit. I'm curious about if a high school student wanted to do a internship over the summer. Is there any way that the high school could recognize that for credits if it's not paid or anything like that? So I know that type of student does exist that wouldn't want to bog down their schedule instead of taking another AP or something. Just an option for that. And then I'm also thinking of leveraging our alumni from here, especially if we're looking to make connections. I know there's been attempts at that work to bring back alumni to connect with current students. But I think there's an idea that has a lot of legs. I think a lot of people would want to give back and volunteer some time there, if not more, to go back to work and then make the connection with Tewksbury Public Schools and that place of employment. Just some ideas to keep this thing going.
And we can actually add that to their exit survey. Are you interested, and can you provide us with your personal email, because their school email ends, and then we're at a loss of how to contact them.
Right.
But that has been a recommendation that's been brought up, and I think it is worthwhile, because hearing from other students, even hearing from, graduates of college who are still young and in fields, right, is much more impactful for students than somebody of my age maybe coming in and having that conversation with them.
Right.
So we also have on page 50, the other course opportunities, experiential learning, so we do take that into consideration and do offer some credit for that.
Sweet. Okay. I'm sure it needs to be a little creative of an offering, but that sounds good.
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, I just want to echo a couple things. So first of all, bravo to you guys for the excellent work. Just in my short time on the committee in the last 2 years, just huge differences and amazing accomplishments. The kind of thinking outside the box and getting outside the box of like your standard math, your English, your history, right? Now there's criminal justice, now there's, different engineering courses, wellness. It's really kind of bringing opportunities to students. And so personally, someone who's got 3 kids in the high school, to see all of this is just fantastic. And we've come a long way in the short time. So really kudos to all of you guys. That was all. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to give huge props to you guys.
Also,
I
just to let
appreciate
you
that.
know, we are trying to negotiate with, a couple colleges to expand the criminal justice
Yep.
pathway to get some more courses to be deemed dual enrollment. My argument is the two SROs that are here, hybrid teaching a class,
Yeah.
also have their masters, and on the college level, they could be adjunct professors, so,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And we also have had a conversation with the Department of Early Childhood Education for our childcare class. The childcare teacher, Nicole Smallage, is extremely interested in getting her students certified to leave high school and go get jobs as teachers in preschool programs. We're really there. We
Yeah.
just need to have a little bit more of Ellen Grondine, who used to run the dual enrollment program at Middlesex, is at the Department of Early Childhood Education and has already met with us, said, we just need to finesse a few things. The fact that our students have the experience working with the 4-year-olds in the preschool program, coupled with the opportunity to work in our Century 21 class. Did I say that right? Because I always say it wrong.
21st century.
21st century. See, I say it's the real estate. I apologize. But the fact that they get that, right there, they now have the practical. It's just now looking at getting our coursework and dual enrollment.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to work with Middlesex and trying to get that expanded there for the students.
Business pathway as well, right?
Yeah, and then we are working at the computer science and business pathway. And some of these courses and pathways do overlap, which is helpful. So if we get the biotech, for example, pathway, which we are hoping to be our next pathway, if we get that pathway, the capstone class actually works for both the engineering and the biotech. So, which is very exciting.
Right.
Thank you.
As a parent of kids who are going through those types of decisions as we speak, I'm really appreciative of all the work that you guys have been doing. I think it would be helpful, and continuing to get to those 7th and 8th graders, because I think just one thing will catch their attention and they'll grasp onto it. And it may not be something you talk about the first or second time, but also trying to get something out to parents too, of everything that the high school has to offer, because they're going to be one of the most influential people in helping their kids make decisions. So maybe some kind of flyer or pamphlet or something to get out to them just to show all the different things might be helpful too when they're having those discussions with their kids. But great job. I'm excited for all of this. So thank you for all the work you put in. And maybe would it be helpful too if maybe we got Mary Jo Kelleher in here one time? time to kind of talk about the things that she's,
I would love to.
Yeah.
I mean, she really, we should be throwing bouquets at her too,
Yeah.
because again, you need that person marketing all of this.
Right.
And by dedicating a person to do that, and she was the right person.
Yeah.
But yes, I took note of your idea for the 8th grade. That letter that went out already earlier this year, we should revisit, highlight some new changes, and just, we can put her to work on that.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank
and we've been discussing, like, so if you, colleges send out quick facts
Yeah,
to high
right.
schools, right? So what I'd love to do is a digital quick fact with interactive, meaning I can click this, I can get a recording of what is this?
Yeah.
So that wouldn't happen, obviously, for this year. Require somebody with technology skills that I don't have to help us out. But we do have the tech coaches that can help us with that. And so that's something that we can look at for moving forward for next year. I do think that would be very beneficial for families because they may not want to sit through a whole PowerPoint or a whole presentation
Right.
on everything, but I want to learn about this,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, that's
So
great.
they can get that information.
Right.
So this has really been one of my most favorite packets for school committee ever. I think going through this and reading through a lot of this information, I was just smiling. I just so excited, so just, I felt really good about the direction that things are going in the district. I felt really good about the work that you're doing, and like Mr. Russo said, it's been in a short amount of time. So, you know, there's clearly new people that are, you know, new fresh set of eyes, you know, and I think maybe that's helped a bit, you know, and then coupled with some people that have been doing it a long time so that, you know, there's some nice balance there and you can see it. Some of the stuff I wrote about, you've covered almost all of it. Super excited about the health services stuff, like really excited. Of course, as a nurse, right? The intro to criminal justice, I know we'll probably hear more about that later, but that was gonna be one of my other questions is how can we even take that the next step? I'm excited to hear that you're even looking in that direction. The experiential learning, that caught my eye a little bit. The engineering capstones caught my eye. The foreign languages and the expansion there, outstanding. And I think what people don't understand is just how robust the arts programs are in the town too. I think there's a lot of conversation sometimes about those programs have been cut, but I think Tewksbury's done a really nice job. I mean, I think kids would love to, at the, you know, middle school level, know they can take piano, they can take guitar. You know, there's other options and not just, you know, traditional kind of music classes and things like
And
that
for
too.
students pursuing that, that is one of the most difficult processes in the application because they have to audition for 3/4 of that. And having those foundational classes here prepares our students. And so, you know, it's unfortunate when it gets cut in other districts because it is limiting students who have that passion and that interest and want to pursue careers. And there's a lot of careers that are in our arts world. So, you know, I commend our administration for keeping them intact and seeing the importance for students that they be there for them.
I do too. You know, and then just the range of.
And our teachers too, like, so the drama programs at the Wynn and the high school here work closely together and they try to build those bridges. Same thing with the music and the band as well. So having worked both at the Wynn and here, there is that to try to facilitate that
Yeah.
transition to the high school, and they do a great job with that.
Yeah, so, yeah, super exciting. And then just to build on something Mrs. Anderson's talking about in terms of communication home, I think even for current students, I know as a parent, you know, I'm in tune to what's going on, but I don't think all parents are, and I don't know that they even realize that their kids are looking at classes right now. So whatever you can do, I think, to communicate that home so that parents are tuned in a little bit, because I think sometimes this is gonna get past kids a little faster, because they're, you know, maybe they're focused on something else, but the parents are gonna tune in on it. So anything, you know, that you can message home.
So it will go in the updates room, or the weekly update tomorrow.
Yeah.
Pending approval tonight,
Yeah.
we want to have it up on the website tomorrow, so there's an advisory day.
Yeah.
And that's part of the process is to have the kids spend some time in their advisory classes looking at the program of studies and talking about it. Bailey Mahoney created a sheet to help sort of organize which classes they're taking,
Yeah.
but also take into consideration Are you taking, you know, are you going to be part of athletic teams? What clubs and activities are you doing? Do you have a job outside of school? All those kinds of things to, you know, get the whole picture. So that will be included going home tomorrow, so.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you for the work. You know, it's exciting.
And just so you know, the WIN gets an abridged copy of the program of studies that highlights just the freshman courses, gives examples of the freshman schedule, a typical freshman schedule. But then looking ahead, we highlighted a lot of these opportunities so they could also see that. And that will be available to both students and parents.
Okay. No, and certainly, you know, I think we all want students to make the choices that are right for them, but the more information that they have and families have, that's I think what we're looking for. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was great.
Madam Chair, if you would entertain a motion to move new business 19A, excuse me, up ahead, and we can get that business taken care of just based on the fact that we just had a presentation on it.
Yeah, I think it'd be great. So, so there's a motion to move from number 19A, the vote on 2024-2025 program of studies. Is there a second?
Make a second on that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. All in favor to move that vote, please say aye. Aye. Okay, so that brings us to roll call vote to accept the 2024-2025 program of studies. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second to
Okay,
approve the
so
program of studies.
Motion by Mrs. Biagioni Smith, a second by Mr. Russo, to approve the 2024-2025 program of studies. Mr. Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
Okay, and so that passes unanimously, and again, thank you guys so much for presenting. Okay, next we have our citizens forum. We have one person that has signed up to speak. Yes. And just some background about the committee. We have a 15-minute time slot, and we ask people to limit their comments to 3 minutes, if that's
Okay,
possible.
I got about 3 issues.
Okay, so welcome.
Okay, the first issue is, where do we stand with the North Street School? I have a direct interest being in a butter. I'm the direct abutter. Indirectly, I have an interest over there to the school. It appears to me this keeps getting kicked down the road, and I'd like to know where we're headed with this. I went to almost every reuse committee meeting, was told twice, the schools were coming down. Understand you've given away the Trahan back to the town. That's passé now. I was told twice the schools were coming down. I go to the last meeting that was held right here, no money. Who planned this out? When the school was being built at $165 million, you can't tell me that $4 million couldn't be put into that budget to make sure that those schools were coming down. I feel that we were misled as a town, and now we're being misled because nobody has listened to what the town people wanted to do with this land after the reuse committee. And now this committee here keeps kicking the North Street School down the road. I just want to know what's going on. Seriously, we had a police station that sat there for over 20 years as a blight in the center of town. This is what's going to happen if nothing is done with this piece of property. Knock it down and grass it over. I don't understand until you decide what you're going to do. You want to keep it, that's fine, but knock the building down. You got a maintenance cost. I watched the maintenance department plow that 5 times after the last little storm. 5 times they plowed it. I understand it has to be kept because it is a building, but you're paying for heat. You're paying it to have protected. I noticed the police over there. I noticed outside agencies using it. Are you being paid from these outside police departments? I think it's a great training facility, believe me. I was in the public service. Great building to have. But are you being paid? And where's the liability? God forbid somebody got hurt, an officer got hurt over there for some unforeseen reason. Where is the liability? Just questions that I think we should have answers to. I just, we're over a year, well over a year, since the reuse committee was disbanded or whatever. And then they had the survey, and nobody paid attention to the survey. It was like a waste of time, paper, money. So I'd like to just know where we're headed. Because I always thought it was this month you were going to decide what you're doing with it. And I don't see any decisions.
I appreciate your comments. It's the policy of our committee that we don't have exchangeable conversation
really
from
hear
here.
you. I'm sorry.
So we don't exchange conversation. This is a public comment where you can
Okay.
share your comments. But I would love to connect with you outside of the meeting if you'd like, to leave your contact information with
Sure.
Ms. Johnson, because, I mean, I could answer all of your questions, and we could,
Okay, that's fine.
A better
That's fine, but
dialogue.
I just want to let you know, because I'm not the only one. I'm speaking on behalf of many people that I
no, absolutely.
talk
yeah.
with in a day-to-day basis. But I do have a direct interest, because I am indirectly abutting the North Street School.
Okay, understood. No,
My next item, if you don't mind,
sure.
there's 3 storage facilities at the new school built out in the back parking lot. I would like to know what those storage facilities are for and why there are 3 metal containers in the back of this school. What is all this for?
I can find
So
out.
again, I'll
I
leave
can
my
find out for
information.
you.
But, I mean, we're looking at storage things when we're using the old firehouse for maintenance, which is great. And I'm sure there's plenty of space over there for storage. I don't think these metal containers are cheap. And then we got 3 garages over at the new school, which is a great complex. And my last item is, I know I'm probably bitching a little bit, but I see 3 pieces of snow removal equipment sitting in the island over at the new school, out in the back parking lot. Didn't once see them move during the storms. So that's my complaints, I guess. I'm not saying you guys got a tough job. I understand that. I get it, And these things are probably some of the furthest things in the back of your mind. The educational part is more important. I understand that totally. But I just don't understand, these couple of things that are just mind-boggling to myself.
No, I'd like to connect with you offline, or connect you to the people that can answer some of these questions for you. So if you want to leave Ms. Johnson your
Okay,
information.
I'd appreciate it.
I'll definitely be in touch.
Again, not jumping on you as a group. I think it's, the whole town should be involved in what's being done. And when they did, it was like nobody answered them.
Ms. Garabedian?
Yes,
Madam
please, Mrs.
Chair,
Terrier.
welcome to host that meeting at the superintendent's office, because there are a couple of people we should probably invite in to talk with you
I'm
on.
sorry?
Where I welcome hosting this meeting to answer some of your questions at the superintendent's office, and I'm happy to bring in our maintenance chair as well as our business
I'd
manager.
appreciate it.
To help answer these questions for
Well, I
Mr. Anderson.
just hate to see a piece of property sit there and deteriorate. And you've been in town a long time.
I know, we both have.
And, yeah, I'm here over 60-something years now. So I'm getting elderly. Or I already am. But you saw the blight. Your husband saw the blight. He lived with it. And I just don't think that we, as a town, should be sitting on something like this.
I think we can answer
And I think
these questions for you.
You see, I know you'd love to build a new school down the road. We don't know what's gonna happen. When we start seeing state budgets, I see Tewksbury, we were fortunate enough to get this one, fortunate enough to get the other one. At some point, the state's gonna say, you got yours. There's 350 more cities and towns. So getting money is gonna be tough. you know, 10 years down the road, may not matter to me, but it's gonna matter to a lot of people. And I just think that some decisions need to be made.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you.
Please do.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I used to think I was pitching that in.
That's right. Okay. So next, we've done our minutes. We are in good shape here. So on to our reports. For our superintendent report, Mrs. Terry Regan.
Well, thank you, and let's start with the snow. We had our first snow day of the 23-24 school year yesterday. The only thing missing was the snow. So in trying to give our parents and obviously our staff sufficient notice based on the weather reports we were all listening to, so many of us in Massachusetts got this one wrong. So I hope parents can forgive me on this one. And hope our students and staff did enjoy the drier than expected day off. All right, well, with that, this Friday, February 16th, is an early release day for students and teachers as it kicks off. Next week is our February vacation week, time off for our students and teachers. Monday, February 19th, our schools and central offices are closed in honor of President's Day, a federal holiday, and Tuesday through Friday next week, for anyone watching, our school offices and the central office are open. The entire month of February is designated as Black History Month, where we nationally honor and recognize the contributions of African Americans to our U.S. history. Our schools have been celebrating and educating our students accordingly through readings, daily postings, and in school and through highlighted books in the libraries and classrooms. Earlier this month, we shared with our community that some special dates and book readings our Tewksbury Public Library is hosting together with our town Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity Committee in honor of Black History Month. We'll continue to post those reminders in our district newsletter again this Friday, or folks can visit the Tewksbury Public Library website. Over the February break, the Tewksbury Public Health Museum is also open to families, including a family movie night. In your consent agenda, I have shared with you a spotlight article published in the Police Chief magazine last month. The article spotlights our collaborative app. When I get tired, I'm sorry, my tongue just gets in the way here, but our collaborative effort with the Tewksbury Police Department to create experiential career courses and internships for high school students, as you heard highlighted a little tonight. Additionally, the Tewksbury Police Department has already shared out their Summer Police Academy flyer, and we'll share that flyer in our district newsletter and more as we get closer to the spring. The Middlesex District Attorney, Marion Ryan, was in the Tewksbury Memorial High School last week with our high school administration, as well as with some of you, with the administrative team and our Chief of Police, Ryan Columbus, to deliver our mandatory social host information session meant to inform and support our junior students and parents. As you remember, this is a required event for all parents of juniors and seniors in order for those students to attend end-of-year student social events such as the junior and senior prom. Additionally, District Attorney Ryan shared that this Friday is National No One Eats Alone Day. Because Friday is a half day, our schools are participating in this movement tomorrow, February 15th, by encouraging and promoting social interaction tips for students that build on the sense of belonging for all in our schools. This is a really nice movement that truly supports our full inclusion efforts and that we strive for in our schools. We thank the District Attorney for her continued support to our students. February 5th through February 9th was National School Counseling Week. I shared a proclamation of appreciation that I sent out to each of our school counselors. I encourage anyone who wishes to thank our school counselors for all of their support to their families or students to do so through school or email. I want to bring to your attention the donation of Mr. Brian Tuttle. He's making this donation to the Wynn School for Mr. Maxwell's STEM classroom, valued at about $600. With your approval of the consent agenda, we can accept that equipment. We're also recipients of the ExxonMobil $500 donation to the Ryan STEM program. Again, with your approval, these funds will support the Massachusetts STEM and Design Challenge for the Ryan students. While February is a short month, we had several celebrations in our schools, including our 100th day of school benchmark that we hit earlier this month. Our students at the Heathbrook were busy creating Valentines for veterans. They participated in a toy drive for hospitalized students, and the Heathbrook preschoolers hosted an art show, a gallery museum, if you will, where all the students got to do a gallery walk, appreciating their own original art compositions. I hope you enjoyed the photos that we shared with you of the Heathbrook happenings. We're now taking applications for our 2024 Annual Ginsburg Family Award, recognizing a community member or entity who has significant impact and contributions to improve our schools, and also the 2024 Annual Chrissy Palomino Outstanding Educator Award. This award honors someone in the Tewksbury Public School system that has contributed significantly to the successes of our schools and students. Both of these nomination forms will be in the February and March newsletters. Finally, I'm proud to share with you that we have been awarded $30,000 to implement the high school internship program in the Doing 21st Century Grant Program. You heard Mrs. Baker O'Brien talk a little bit about that. This grant allows these internship opportunities to our students for the remainder of this school year, as well as over the summer. We are one of 20 districts to receive this award. Again, I mean, we just really have wonderful soldiers behind the scene, Mrs. and Dr. Basteri, Karen Baker O'Brien, and others trying to find these opportunities for our students. So this opportunity is a paid opportunity that gives career hands-on experience to students that want to pursue a career in education, and certainly benefits our younger students in the 21st Century program. And that concludes my updates. There were a lot. I tried to do them fast. I'll welcome any questions you may have.
There were a bunch, yeah. Any comments from anybody?
No questions? No, thank you.
No? Ms. Anderson?
No, I'm good, thank you.
And I don't either. I just, again, going through this was just, it was exciting. I would like to say thank you to the staff that did the toy drive. I think that's definitely above and beyond the expectation, you know, of the job, but I think it brings that community together, and I like seeing those types of things in the school, so. you know,
And it's nice that they're doing them outside of the winter holiday season, but throughout the year. Really gives that spirit of giving.
Yeah, yeah, so, yeah, it's exciting. And then just a kind of a acknowledgement of the two retirees that you have listed in the consent agenda, Mrs. Highland and Mrs. Gordon. So that'll be a loss for the district, but I wish them, you know, well, I know we'll see them at the end of the year, but I have to acknowledge they're both great educators, so. And is there a motion to accept the consent agenda? Oh, wait, we're not at the consent agenda, sorry. You just spoke about the consent
We're
agenda,
almost
I'm
there.
sorry. Almost.
We're getting there.
McDermott.
Almost, yes, thank you. I'd like to second the shout out to all of the school counselors. It's impossible to explain the impact that they have, the value, all that they do for the students, the families, and all of the educators in our building. So we truly couldn't get by without them. So I hope that they were appropriately celebrated and continue to be. A quick update to our Access for ELS testing. That's the language proficiency testing that happens at this time each year. We have wrapped that up officially today, actually. So congratulations to all of the students for all of their hard work and perseverance. It's, you know, it's certainly a large endeavor, and a huge thank you to all of the school and district staff. I mean, it's not as big as MCAS, but it's still a heavy lift that involves a lot of staff to make all of that happen. So the flexibility of the classroom teachers and our ELL teachers and all of the technology support, it's a nice thing to have behind us, and we look forward to those results. Tonight, the kindergarten report card goes live. So that is available to parents in their Aspen documents section. Principal Garish and Principal Bosworth sent out specific instructions for the K families so that they would be able to access those report cards for the first time, because it is a little bit of a different system this time. Also, the grades 5 through 12 report cards also posted in the Aspen accounts today, and parents can certainly reach out to their child's school if they need assistance accessing those as well. And then all of the special education and ELL progress reports are also available to students. So this was a big one. We just don't have the 1 through 4 yet, coming in March. Quick field trip update. So at our last meeting, you had approved the out-of-state field trip open to students in grades 7 through 12 who are currently participating in the drama program. They are headed to see Wicked on Broadway. Due to a busing issue, this out-of-state field trip date has been changed from April 6th to March 9th. The trip itinerary is all the same. This is informational only. No vote is needed. We just wanted you to know there's just a slight change to that date. We're very excited to bring back our attendance and credit recovery opportunities. We're looking for after-school academic support teachers at the Wynn Middle School and TMHS. We're also looking for teachers for TMHS attendance recovery program. These are grant-funded positions that support our students who have not received full credit and who are experiencing chronic absenteeism. A huge thank you again to Dr. Cindy Bastieri for continuing to find funds for these important programs. And that concludes my update.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Did you say the field trip change was to March 9th?
Yes.
Oh, it's like in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's a quick one.
Quick.
Yeah.
That's soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it? Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Libby?
I have two very brief, quick items. I've taken enough of your time tonight. So I don't know if you knew this, and I didn't know we had an issue with this, but apparently there was an issue with the bus app, the tracking app on delayed openings and early release days. There was a 2-hour window that was set up that at dismissal, arrival and dismissal, that the app was active to track buses. So on delayed openings and early release days, the buses weren't traveling in that 2-hour window. So the zones apparently didn't work. I was not aware of this until recently. And we asked the bus company to look into it, and they fixed it. So we're, this Friday with the early release, they're going to adjust the school schedule, and parents don't need to do anything, but the app should work. Track?
Yes. Yeah.
Have you found this to be a problem?
Yes.
Let us know if it works, right? So it should be fixed. Second thing is, no one's going to care, but we have our audit of our state report happening next week. We'll get the results probably in a couple months and let the committee know. That's the report that we file with the state every year, that every dollar that gets spent in the district is categorized into those categories that we present our budget in. It is an audited report. They'll be in next week for a couple days to join us and check our work. So we'll let you know how we make out with that.
Thank you, Mr. Libby. Any questions?
I have a question. Can I just go back to the field trip? I'm just, sorry.
Sure.
Just because I just misread it in the agenda in the packet. What would happen if there's snow
If there's snow.
So,
for the field trip? Sorry.
Oh.
I'm going backwards.
yeah.
Sorry,
that's a
just
good
because I'm
question. I
thinking
mean,
like,
I don't know if they fully cancel it, or do they try to reschedule? I know with
Question
other
I
field
had.
trips, if something comes up, we try to reschedule.
I'm going to write that down.
But I'm
I
not
don't
really
know
sure.
what level of insurance they have on that type of event for a one-day out of state, but if it's unsafe for us to take a busload, we won't. But we don't know if there's going to be snow there either. So let me ask that, where it has moved a little earlier.
Yeah.
There's a potential.
sorry. Yeah, I just wanted, because I missed the March part in the memo. but
I
now
saw
I'm
it
like-
registering.
Yeah, that was like, oh, our
Yeah.
weather is so wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry to go backwards.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Libby?
Yes. Not really a question, but more just, Mr. Libby, I care, so I just want you to know that I care. And, you know, my colleague over here wishing snow in March, so we're gonna move on.
Being realistic.
Snow like yesterday would be nice.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, and I have no questions. All right, so moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything else that you wanted to cover in the consent agenda?
There's a lot in there.
I'll
Thank you
make a
for
motion to approve the
indulging.
consent agenda as presented this evening in our packets.
I will second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mr. Parsons. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and that passes unanimously. And so now for our school committee member reports, starting with the CPAC. I don't know if Mr. Parsons or Mrs. Biagioni Smith would like to speak.
Sure. So we just wanted to point out that the transition night questionnaire is still live. It was pushed out on all of the different PAC sites. The CPAC is looking to gather information, what people are interested in learning about when it comes to our students transitioning. There's a lot of transitions in Tewksbury. That survey is geared towards helping put together a list of questions that would be useful to have answered on transitions night, which is something they're looking to schedule with the district administration. I did want to point out that tomorrow's meeting is not a business meeting. It's the basic rights workshop, which will cover the new IEP in probably pretty good depth and answer questions. And then the next business meeting for the PAC is March 21st. And I know Mr. Pelletier mentioned that the Federation of Children with Special Needs is also going to host a IEP session as well. That's March 5th as well. So if anyone is tracking dates, that one is March 5th if they can't make the basic rights workshop tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And for wellness, Mr. Russo? Or
Yeah.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Yeah, no, so we met last week, actually. So a couple things that we covered, it was a lot was focused around nutrition. Specifically, we got Nutrition Month coming up in March, of course, number one, but number two, also just in terms of the offerings being made at the schools. I know Ms. Mugford does a great job with, ensuring, obviously, USDA requirements and whatnot, but just ensuring, the options that are available to students, especially as we look at other districts and other, Andover, Chelmsford, et cetera, when you're seeing what's available there versus what's here. So there was a lot of conversation around that. And then we were missing Mrs. Ruggiero, so there was a lot of agenda items around things that she was going to be sharing with us. So we postponed those till April. But the other thing that did come up too, is just on the whole concept of the mock crash versus an impact speaker at the high school level, especially as I'm seeing sophomores getting their licenses now as the school year is progressing, of course. I just didn't know if there was any, where we left it was that I think, Ms. Regan, you were going to be following up with Chief Columbus on that, and I don't know if there's been any traction there, but just maybe putting it on your radar, I guess. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that's all I have for updates. We'll meet again first Wednesday of April.
thank you. And for our policy subcommittee, Mrs. Anderson?
Yeah, we actually are just trying to firm up a time for our next subcommittee meeting. So hopefully we'll firm that up maybe tonight while we're all here, and we can get that on the calendar. But we did get a latest version of the wellness policy, so that will be one thing that we will be reviewing at our next meeting.
Okay, and that brings us to policy changes. We don't have any for tonight. For old business, that brings us to our registration periods. Grades 1 through
And we get to talk about report cards again. So I've provided you with the revised 2023-24 register periods for grades 1 through 4. What we would like to do is move the marking period end date to March 8th. It's currently set at March 12th. And the reason for that proposed change is what we're learning and trying to factor in is we need to build in time for the principals to be able to, for the teachers to finish the grading, give the principals enough time to review all of the report cards that get a little longer each term because we, grade more standards, and then get those to processing to be disseminated to families. So we're not looking to change the dissemination time or anything. We're just looking to close the marking period a little bit earlier. And when the superintendent and I discussed it, we felt like this would be fair, relatively fair, because we had built in a couple of days for snow that we hadn't used until yesterday, but we're still in good shape.
Okay.
So this actually does require a roll call vote.
Any discussion?
So just a question, so is the intention then, on a go-forward basis, that with the new sort of trimester schedule for 1 through 4, that sort of each term will get a little bit longer and it won't be just 60 days per term on a go-forward basis?
Not really. We usually build in a little bit in the middle.
Yeah.
Because of the expected snow days. It's really just figuring out, we hadn't anticipated the time that the principals would need. And it is quite a long window of time. So this is our first go-around at this. I think we'll be talking about it again when we have those TBD dates in June. But I think we'll have a better handle on it for next year. But that 8th date gives us another weekend built in there. Not that we're ever hoping that teachers are working on the weekend. We are not, for sure, but it does give us a little wiggle room.
Yes.
I think with, again, this process being new for our teachers and new for us, however, even in our 4-quarter register period, we've come to you at times and just wriggled maybe that winter quarter because of snow, either excessive or none, and then we see that there's an imbalance in the others. So sometimes the register period changes by a day or two. I was worried about no school yesterday, and would that change anything? But the K in 5 through 12 were already all posted
Yeah.
and done.
Yeah.
So it didn't change theirs at all.
Understood. So I'm happy to make a motion to change the term trimester 2 date from March 12th to March 8th as presented this evening.
Second.
Okay. So roll call vote to revise the 2023-2024 register periods for grades 1 through 4, where the attendance and marking period end date to change to March 8th. Mr. Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. B. Joni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Thank you. I think teachers will be very appreciative of that. Thank you.
Okay, and then now we're going to look at the school calendar.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. This item also requires a roll call vote. If you remember last meeting, I shared with you the draft of a change that was made due to a memorandum of understanding that I was able to collaborate with our union president on, which is also attached in your packet. The substantial change, I guess you would say, since the first draft, is we now have graduation day on the 6th, and it is also that half day that we had to recapture because of Good Friday being a full day off. So you can see in June that it is yellow, also with a red 6, which highlights early release as well as graduation day. We know this helps parents in our PAC who run the all-night-long graduation. So at this point, this is I would say, the final draft that we wish you would vote on, knowing that if anything should change from now until the start of next school year, and I give you that caveat, it may be around the start and stop time for students, as Mr. Libby and Dr. Osborne look at transportation needs. That is the only last detail that's still being explored. At this point, I'm comfortable with you voting on the 24-25 school calendar.
Okay, any discussion?
Just a question, if anything comes out of the negotiations where we may have to adjust this, that will come back to us as well with an adjusted calendar to?
It will, and sometimes, and that question actually came up in negotiations, if you were there live, we would visit each of those issues individually. For example, that Thursday for Good Friday and what have you. But when those are issues like that, we would revisit, do we put it in the second year of the contract, or do we put it in the first, depending on when we finish?
Okay, thank you.
Also,
Yeah, I'll make a
Mr.
motion.
Parsons, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the school calendar for 2024, 2025 as shared with the committee this evening.
Second.
Okay, and so this is a roll call vote to approve the 2024-2025 school calendar and legend draft. Mr. Parsons, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mrs. B. Joni Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And I appreciate that back page having some of those dates on them. I think they're very helpful. So, thank you. Okay. And that'll bring us now to looking at our school committee goals. This is just kind of an update. I think we shared these in September, so this is now an opportunity for us to just revisit them kind of at a midway mark and say, are we where we wanted to be? Or are we not? So Does anybody have any comments or thoughts? I'm happy to go through them kind of systematically.
You want to take each goal, I mean, it's 3 goals.
Yeah, so we started with the public schools, the Tewksbury Public Schools district strategy, which is, created by the district in, collaboration, and then also theory of action and mission statement. Moved on to 3 goals that we had defined for ourselves that had a few action steps with them. First goal being duty to govern, establish policies, and oversee, evaluate, and monitor the execution of policies. So we defined for ourselves that by June 30th, the school committee would conduct a review and update school committee policies that support the district plans to provide educational programming to be sure they are up to date and in compliance with state, federal law and regulations. This goal will be measured by the changes made in identified policies and the clear communication of changes to the school community. We had 3 action steps. The school committee policy subcommittee shall continue to convene and review current policies and recommend adjustments and updates with appropriate central office staff, identify the policies that will be reviewed and adjusted, and publish final changes and communicate how the changes apply to the school community. Any comments or discussion on where we're at with that goal?
If you'll indulge, I mean, I'd kind of like to hear from you guys as the policy subcommittee a little bit more, just in terms of how do you feel we're progressing against sort of where we'd like to be versus maybe where we actually are.
So I'll start one thing and then I'll hand off to Mrs. Anderson. Year to date, from August until January, our committee, collectively all of us, have reviewed and approved 31 policies. So that's not even counting the policies that we still have in subcommittee that are in progress. So I appreciate that we've looked at some of these policies that haven't been looked at in decades. So I think we've made a lot of progress in that way. We've looked at other districts. We've worked with Massachusetts Association of School Committees. We've worked with DESE. We've worked with multiple community stakeholders. I know Mrs. Terry Regan has worked pretty hard on her end, connecting with administration, teachers, students, and also with the assistant superintendent. So I think I'm proud of that work. And it's hard to gauge, and I think when we came up with the policy, with this goal, it was hard to make this measurable, because some of the work is really pretty labor intensive for one policy, where you could cover 5 policies, without any trouble at all. So that's my feedback, but I'm proud of where we're at.
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe this past month we haven't had such a focus on it because there's been a lot going on, but I think we're getting to the point we're going to start getting to some heavy hitter policies, like the wellness policy, the homework policy. So I'm excited to get into those. But yeah, I think we've done a lot of work to date. This is probably the first meeting that I've been to or been a part of that we haven't had any updated policies to review. So we have been plugging along, making progress there.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, another thing I'd like to is really a huge thank to Ms. Johnson. We couldn't do this work without her coordination and organization. There are other districts that use a consultant to help them, in their review policy process, and we chose not to go that direction. So we're doing a lot of this work on our own. It's a lot more work, but I think it's more rewarding, and it feels like by the time we're bringing policy to the committee and we're sitting here with it, we know that it's been vetted pretty well. So that's probably my last thing I have to say. Any thoughts? I mean, because we all really participate in the.
No, I think you covered, yeah.
Yeah, I feel comfortable where we're at. I just, like I said, I thought it was more of an opportunity for you guys to give kudos to yourselves a little bit because you've been bringing them to us, so.
Yeah. Okay, so then our next goal was committee support of district-wide efforts to increase and improve communication. So this was by June 30th. The school committee will have developed and implemented a proactive communication plan that celebrates the successes of the district and regularly updates the public regarding the district's challenges as measured by agenda items, meeting minutes, and increased attendance of all committee members at district events. Our action steps were, through the superintendent, collaborate on and create a platform for information sharing by November 1st. Through the superintendent, identify the events and activities which prompt school committee presence during the school year. And individual members of the school committee will consistently share updates and information on the subcommittee, advisory committees, and other relevant groups that they're assigned to or involved with. So I'll open that up for anyone.
So I'll jump in there a little bit. I think that we've done a great job of consistently providing updates on where we're all at with each of the subcommittees that we work on. I think that it's specifically listed on our agenda that that's something we cover, we come ready to talk about, and do a significant amount of work outside of this 1 month, 1 day a month meeting that we have. I think that a lot of people might not realize how many additional meetings we all go to, but we come back and share that month over month with everybody. I think that the addition of the new Facebook page that the district is using to share some of the great things happening within the schools is a really nice touch to sharing some of that information with families that maybe don't see all of that. I think where we might do better is with our general communication and the website, and a little bit of that is on me. I hope to work with Ms. Johnson on getting that up and running, but I think a lot of things took precedent before that, and where we still have through the end of the year to capitalize on that. I think we have plenty of time to continue the growth of our communication with the district.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll maybe just echo some of that. I think one of the things that we have been able to, build up with our website is some of the collective bargaining stuff that we're embarking on at the moment. Obviously, each of the subcommittees that make up our whole committee will be keeping, tabs on some of the information that we're providing to get information out there to the community, at relevant times. So, obviously, there's going to be some pieces to that, I think. Ms. B. Joni Smith, I'm sure you'll work on with Ms. Johnson. So I think we're making strides. I think that, I'm trying to think of what more we could do to continue to advocate that. People do know how to reach us. So, if there's ways that we can maybe challenge ourselves to, I'd say be more available, but I also, like to your point, Ms. B. Joni Smith, if you look at all of our calendars, there's meetings constantly throughout the month, whether it's with administration, with potential, with residents, and various subcommittee meetings that we're all a part of too. So it is a lot, but I do think, if there are other ways that we can continue to collaborate and share information, whether it's a website, Facebook, I don't know. I don't know what other means, if you guys have any other thoughts on that piece too, but.
Yeah, I think we talked about too, another thing is like open hours, office hours is something that we kind of tossed around once in a while, or coffee chats, or, tea times, or whatever the heck you want to call them. But like, those are great opportunities too. Website is just so hard because it's got to be constantly maintained and updated. And things are moving so fast. And the whole Facebook thing is such an easy way to keep current and quickly, whereas a website takes time to change and upload and amend and archive and everything else that comes with it. And every single person sitting here has a full-time job besides that. So it's a tough thing to carve time out to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only thing more frustrating than people feeling as though they don't get communication is going to look for information and finding that things are outdated. So I agree with you in that it's not something I think we should embark on unless we are fully, we're vetted to the level to where we have somebody who can do that work regularly.
Right.
So that's an ongoing discussion.
Okay.
Any other comments from?
I also think as a committee, each one of us individually always has communication on the forefront of our minds. I think it was 2 or 3 different times just this meeting that we've asked for more communication in some way from the district, and you're always receptive to it. You always work on it and get it out. So I think that we're constantly thinking about how we can communicate and working with the district on getting more information out. So I think that's going along with this goal as well.
And I thank you for prioritizing this at the district level. Because I think our job is really in supporting you, in the work that you're doing. So any way that you could, have thoughts on how we can.
Some thoughts we can talk about.
On how we can work together on that would be great. Our third goal was the school committee's professional practice goal. Committee commitment to building knowledge, capacity, and effectiveness. The committee will participate in professional development and opportunities to build their knowledge of school systems and how to govern them effectively. Action steps being attend the MASC and the MASS Joint Conference in November. Number 2, engage in training and professional development focused on collective bargaining. And number 3, begin the practice of scheduling an annual springtime workshop to review progress towards the goals aforementioned and to begin discussing priorities and potential goals for the upcoming year. Any thoughts or comments on our professional practice goal?
You check one off the list.
Oh, yeah. I think having all 5 of us attend the conference in November
It was
is
great that we were all able to attend that.
continuing to, we've been in several sessions on, to continue our growth and development as members. We have things on the horizon, the Day on the Hill coming up in May, and some of the other things going on with our division that Ms. Garabedian, you have inside scoop on. So, yeah, I think we're,
Yeah. We've attended some other great things. I was reminded of in Burlington, they had I wrote this down. It was Neil Cohen, the Director of Regulatory and Compliance Officer, the Inspector General for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. That was a really great session that we attended at the town clerk's recommendation. So I think we have been taking some really good opportunities, and we do share that out here in our meetings. So I think we've made big strides in trying to, get more knowledge in the things that we need to know more about.
Yeah.
So, okay. If everybody's okay, we'll move on. And any comments from the leadership?
I think I would add to that, building your knowledge capacity. I'm always impressed with how much you are seeking out other information from other school committees and other districts. When you come to talk about topics and issues and things that we're doing or you've seen somewhere else, that's really impressive as a superintendent that you've taken the time to develop your own knowledge. I mean, professionally developing your knowledge is all day, not just going to particular events. So I really appreciate that from this committee, you taking the time to really dig deep on what your role and what it looks like in other districts so we can improve our own. So thank you. Add that. I think you should add that action step to your list because it's quite impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and that moves us on to our district report card.
All right, and this is an informational item only. What you have in front of you, which I got to move on, are 2 documents, a letter that will be going home to all parents and a flyer through the district newsletter. Every year, we receive a school and district report card from the state, and this is a report card on our district and schools in multiple capacities around student achievement, student and staff data around enrollment, high-quality teaching qualifications, student learning opportunities, and so much more. We use this information each year to look at what are our achievements to celebrate and where can we find areas and needs of improvement. A letter about this, as I said, has the link so parents over the February vacation and their downtime maybe can explore our school and district report card. And it is that you can even go backwards and look at prior years. But a wonderful tool for people to look at, and anyone that has any questions are welcome to contact myself or the assistant superintendent.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Look forward to seeing it.
Okay. And that brings us to new school committee matters of interest. Does anybody have anything to share? Ms. Biagioni Smith?
none at this time.
No?
No.
Okay. And Ms. Anderson?
No, thank you.
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, actually, I just actually wanted to extend my gratitude to I haven't checked my mailbox today, but to the 61 TTA members out of the 375 members that we have who generously took their precious time to send out Valentine's Day cards to my personal residence in the midst of the ongoing pursuit of a fair contract. Receiving these in honor, honestly, of this special day was without a doubt a timely reminder of the priorities that we share. Your opinion has not gone unnoticed, even as we continue to navigate the intricacies of negotiations publicly and doing what is best for kids. These cards will undoubtedly serve as a reminder to the collaborative spirit that defines our collective efforts. While not everyone participated, I took solace in the fact that a select few chose to express their affection through these Valentine's Day cards. And here's to the hope that such gestures will translate into a more comprehensive understanding of the importance of a fair contract rooted in what is best for children and students. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Anything, Mr. Parsons?
No, all good here. Happy
I-
Valentine's Day, everyone.
I would just like to add, looking ahead at our March and April meetings, we're looking to kind of maybe rework a little bit how we acknowledge and recognize the volunteers in our district. So, we've talked about it a little bit, in the last couple of years at these meetings, and trying to find ways to be a little bit more inclusive and recognizing that there's a number of people that do amazing things in the district, from the PACs to the booster parents to all soup to nuts, bottom to top. So we're looking at kind of reworking how we can recognize, a lot of these volunteers. So I would say stay tuned. April is Volunteer Month, so hopefully maybe some recognition in April in that way. So just putting that out there, but we should be sending something out once we kind of get our heads around that. So that's it there. And then also matters of interest. I know this was in the consent agenda, but if people would just kind of, especially committee members, share this as much as possible. The Ginsburg Family Award and the Chrissy Palomino Outstanding Educator Award. So those should start being, pushed out tomorrow. And those will be due back May 20, we'll present on May 22nd, but they'll be due back April 12th. So, there's some great criteria. It's not hard criteria or difficult criteria, but for the Educator Award, if you have somebody you'd like to nominate, this could be, parents can nominate, staff can nominate staff. We would really welcome to hear about some of the great, staff members and educators in our district, and to be able to acknowledge them this year. And thanks to Mrs. Palomino for coordinating this. And then also the Ginsburg Family Award, the criteria for this is the Tewksbury Public Schools is seeking nominations for the 2024 Annual Ginsburg Family Award. It's to recognize an individual, a group, or a company organization who has had a significant impact on the Tewksbury Public Schools in the area of physical, monetary, or tangible contributions, or volunteering for the benefit of a school or the district. So if people could take a look at these, they'll be sent out by email. They'll be all over the place, so please.
And they'll be in the next 2 months newsletter.
Oh, excellent.
Both, yeah.
Excellent, thank you. So that now brings us to upcoming meetings. March 13th, public hearing on the budget and regular meeting. April 10th, regular meeting. May 1st, a regular meeting. May 6th, annual town meeting, you'll find us. May 8th, special town meeting and annual town meeting reconvened. The school committee will also be in attendance there. And then May 22nd, a regular meeting. The future subcommittee meetings, there's a CPAC meeting, as you mentioned, tomorrow.
It's the Basic Rights Workshop.
Basic Rights Workshop, and then March 21st?
March 21st, yes.
21st, yeah. And then February 15th, like I said, tomorrow, Wellness Advisory Committee, April 3rd, and then the policy, March 8th. And any future agenda items?
Just on the North Street School, as I think, just to put that on the record, I suppose.
Perfect.
Yep.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, yep, so no, that's noted for March. And
A motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
motion to adjourn by Mrs. Biagioni Smith, a second by Mr. Russo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, at 8:23 PM.